This is Doc TV.
This is an awesome day. We have in our studios George Thorogood. He rolled into Owen Sound, and he is joining us right here on the dock. Thank you so much for joining us, George.
Rock and roll never sleeps, just passes out. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to 92.3 The Dock.
I love it.
Greatest hits of all time with the dawn of rock and roll right here in Owen Sound, ladies and gentlemen. You cannot do any better than what you're listening to right now.
Do you want a job?
I got a face made for radio.
You are hired. Well, Summertime Blues 2016 at Kelso Beach Park happens today. George Thorogood, as well as Edgar Winter, April Wine will be performing as well. And we're so glad you're able to join us in studio today. We will be making a call to the winning bid from this morning of $550 to meet you, George. And also that money is going to the CT scanner at the Owen Sound Hospital. So thank you for doing that.
I just wish we could do more often and do more, period.
It's absolutely incredible. Now, you're here. We're going to play some songs that are chosen by you, but it must have been a thrill the first time you heard one of your songs on the radio. Any recollection on that?
I have two recollections of it. It's kind of twofold with me. We were doing some work on the East Coast in the Baltimore, Maryland area, and there was a college station. And there was a DJ there, a very hip guy. He was like a legend on the East Coast, but he did a college thing, and he played Right on Josephine, and I heard it. Which kind of was like, well, it's a college station, for all due respect to that. And the Weasel is a blues freak, so I took it for what it was worth, okay? And now, a little while later, we were cruising through California when we first came to the West Coast. Just the three of us, Bill Blau, Jeff Sine, and myself. And we heard I'll Change My Style on a monster station in Los Angeles. And there was silence in the car. We didn't know how to handle it. It didn't. First of all, we were a three-piece, gut bucket singer, underground boogie blues band. You know, the poor man's Jay Giles, if you will. But for us to even be on radio was just mind-boggling to us. We and it wasn't like Bourbon, Scotch, and Beer or one of those songs. It was a different one, but still, it was a song. And it was funny because we were going up and down. We weren't even getting. I think we were going to play a place called Royce Hall, and the bandstand we didn't want to play because the bandstand was actually bigger than the clubs we were in. Yeah. So it was such a shock, you know, Don, because you know at that time you heard. Saturday Night Fever on the radio, or you heard Donna Summer.
Right, late 70s.
Yeah, it was big stuff going, and you didn't hear guys like me on the radio, you know. So, yeah, that stopped us in our tracks. Excuse me.
Now, does that sort of feeling continue, though, as you roll? Like, you know, years later, you're still hearing George Thorogood on radio stations in every single market across North America. Still got to be a bit of a buzz for you.
Well, I got a story about that. If you want to hear it, I'll try to make it brief.
Okay.
Definitely.
Which is impossible in my case. I was working out at the gym, and I come home from the gym and I turn on the radio. Big station in Los Angeles, KLOS, big rock classic station, and I hear the song "Bourbon, Scotch, and Beer." So I pull into the driveway and I'm listening. I say it's a long song. So when I said I'm going to listen, just hear what the DJ has to say about. Or if anything, sometimes I'll go to a commercial or next song, whatever. Song ends and the DJ comes on and said, well, that was a block of Hendrix, Clapton, and Thorogood. I'm like, whoa, back up. That was a moment when I said, you better start taking your job a little more seriously because there's people out there listening and they might think that you might be as heavy as those cats.
For sure.
See what I'm saying? There might be an 18-year-old who never heard of any of those three artists. So I started really reassessing my situation as an entertainer. And I said, well, this is 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. This isn't 2 or 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
This is a prime time spot in a major market, L.A. You know, so that put the shock in me.
Success is real.
Practiced.
Yeah.
It's very hard to be successful, Don. It's harder to stay successful.
Yes. And that's trended, and we're going to talk about that in just a bit. A song you wanted to hear, Steve Miller Band.
You got it.
Rock Me. Enough to have George in studio. He is part of Summertime Blues tonight down at Kelso Beach Park. If there's any tickets available, give it a shot. The box office at the Attack and also Ticketmaster. And if there's any at the gates, I'm just saying you should get them in advance if you haven't already. George, we took some questions online. We also have an app for phones. And we had this question that was sent in through that app.
Hey guys, this is Larry, and I have a question for George. I'm a huge fan, and I was just wondering, George, what your first big purchase as a rock star was. What was the first big thing you bought when you got that first rock and roll paycheck?
Well, in my case, Larry, it wasn't that big of a paycheck, but it was a royalty check nonetheless. The first thing I went out and bought was I went out and got my teeth fixed. I went to the dentist right away, take care of my health, and I think I took out. I went and bought some insurance for. I wanted to get my teeth worked on right away before the money got away from me.
Mm-hmm. Very practical purchase.
Well, that's me. Without your teeth, you're not gonna make it. So, and I was never really interested in anything else other than that. I mean, it sounds cliche-ish, but say Thorogood, we knew him in high school. We knew him outside of high school, and all Georgie ever really wanted was a guitar and a place to play it.
Yeah,
and that's, you can see how. I mean, I'm just, I don't. I'm not like, some guys are car freaks, some guys are, people are, clothes freaks or whatever. And I'm always saying, oh, it's a bad guitar. I want that guitar.
Yeah, for sure.
I want that guitar. I got to have that. So, yeah, I just said, what's really important to you, George? Your teeth. So that's, it's dull. It's not.
It's not the mansion or the car that we're all expecting. It's the teeth.
That's where it's at. I still got the teeth.
Yeah.
I don't own a car, but I still got my teeth.
And they taught you how to brush circles. Speaking of that, I look back at the career, and your career is just lasting, and it continues. It doesn't seem to fall off. It almost feels like it's growing as you go, as you move forward. And, we saw, at least, especially here in Canada, we saw a massive surge in what would be considered quote unquote classic rock. And it has not gone away. And I'm looking at what you've done. You've never had a gimmick. There's never been makeup. There's never been crazy costumes. Do you think you just being a real person with real music has really helped your career?
I don't think it's hurt us. I think I always say the advertising should match up to the product, or the product should match up to the advertising. So it's say, well, your music is very basic. It's not complicated. So just present yourself as that. Because so the music can connect with the person. I mean, you look at, and a lot of artists are like that. I listen to certain things and I go, well, yeah, that does work for Lady Gaga. That does work for Monty the Rock the Third, or this does work for so and so, but it doesn't work for Thorogood. I mean, I can't wear all that stuff anyway. I'd rip it up. It doesn't. I'm a ball of sweat by 2 songs. I might as well just put on a T-shirt and a pair of jeans because, hey, man, I've tried. Yeah. Trust me, I've tried to flash out. And it's either too hot or I lose it. So we try to keep that thing down to a minimum because it's. I heard a show that was an hour long, and Cher changed her shoes something like 11 times. Yeah. Wow. I said, show's only an hour long. Yeah. I wouldn't get, I don't think I got 11 pairs of shoes at home, let alone for the show. So, we just try to keep it down to basics.
She may have an issue with foot sweat or something.
Well, I don't know. Everybody's different.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that's what they pay to see when they see an artist like Cher. They don't pay that with Thorogood. They want a bourbon, a scotch, and a beer. For sure. and a boogie show.
Yeah.
So I give it to them.
And they're going to get that tonight. We have a couple of questions, too, on Facebook.
Yes, we do. Bill Schaefer asked you, who were your musical and lyrical influences growing up?
Well, when I was growing up, it was one guy who I watched and looked at, and I learned on a business angle and other things. But I can't, maybe you can help me out how to say his name. It's either Mick Richards or Keith Jagger. Whoever that guy is or was, that was who I checked out.
Okay, for sure.
And I said, well, what's the music that those cats listen to make them sound like that? And it was Robert Johnson, John Lee Hooker, Chuck Berry, Howlin' Wolf, Bo Diddley, Jimmy Reed. So I went and started listening to those artists. And I found out that I fell in love with the music as much, or maybe even more so than the Stones did, which was a plus for me. Yeah. It thrilled me. I got off on Howlin' Wolf as much as I got off on the Stones, which was cool. I kind of hung on to that thing a little too long. Sometimes I think, well, it's time to move on, George. You've done 11 Chuck Berry songs over your record. I think you've made your point. Yeah. But it was originally those cats, and then later when I got the guitar in my hands, I paid a lot of attention to John Hammond and Hound Dog Taylor. Those two people, that's when reality set in and said, this is something you can do. Yeah. You'll never do what the Stones did. You'd never do what the Beatles did. You'll never do what Zeppelin did or Hendrix did. Forget that. There's only one Marlon Brando. There's only one Meryl Streep. Do what you know you can do and make a living at it. and it'll take you to wherever it is you're supposed to be.
And I think you've made the right choice.
Well, I got the Don, right with the Don, in the presence of greatness. One of the greatest hits of all time. I made it.
We have one more
And
question.
one more.
Owen and Sal.
Yes.
This is a clever one from Robin Martin. She asked you, did the landlady ever get a rent?
Our landlady, no. You know, that is not too far-fetched from the truth, because the place we were living in, Jeff Simon and I, in Boston, someone bought the building. And when they bought the building, they really, in reality, they doubled the rent, and out the door we went. No lie. And we were stuck for a place to live. And then there were places in Newark, Delaware, the people had a house and they couldn't pay the rent, so they would have house rent parties, and we would play, and people would come in and make a donation. Now, for that, the people living there would let me sleep on their couch for 2 or 3 nights, so I had a place to go.
Yeah.
But we really did play house rent parties. We really did that. You know, to raise them by the end of the night, say the house rent was, I don't know, $100 a week or what. So though it was $150, they took the rest of the 50 and spent it on beer. They did
For the next party.
They didn't wisely put it in advance for the next month. But that was okay with me, because then they'd hire us for the next month to play again when the rent was due again.
Well,
I
thank
don't know
you.
if she ever got it.
Thank you very much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you.
Of course, Summertime Blues, you're going to have a chance to see George Thorogood tonight at Kelso Beach Park. Get your tickets if you haven't already. Most people that I've talked to already have tickets in hand, but if you haven't, you still have time to get those. Again, thank you so much for joining us.
Always a pleasure talking to you, Tom. The sun little Damon never come over to you with me.
And if you're wondering what the rent is all about,
I want to tell you a story